You got the approval, you spent some money, the new amp is glowing, the speakers look incredible, and the financial officer in your house is wondering why you're still making that face. Because it doesn't sound right. You thought new gear might fix that problem, that bottom end that's not showing up. It didn't. The room just voted no on your expensive new signal chain, and now you're stuck with $1 million soundstage trapped in a plasterboard box. Welcome to the Audio Lab. I'm Peter Thomson. Today we stop shopping and we start measuring. If you can't move the walls and can't move the speakers, what actually helps? It's not a new box from the hi-fi shop. Now this is the trap. You agonise over reviews, specs and cables trying to buy your way out of a physics problem. You think the solution is in the next box, the next upgrade, or the next giant killer amp. Do the thing, do all the things. Hans is a bit excited. He has some news. The Audio Lab surpassed 1,000 subscribers this week, and he's convinced it's entirely his doing. That also means the channel is now officially part of the YouTube Partner Program. So yes, you will start seeing some merch and membership mentions here. Memberships will come with a few benefits too: exclusive content, early access, behind-the-scene extras, and a few other bits as we build it out properly. And a big thank you to everyone who has done the thing so far. We genuinely appreciate the support. Now, where were we? You've made all sorts of hardware changes, but none of that fixes the problem, because the room is the biggest part of your system. I'm not a physicist. I'm an audio engineer. Control rooms, live venues. I can only talk to what I've heard and what I've measured. I have been fortunate enough to have worked in an amazing Westlakes design control room way back in the 80s in a recording studio in Melbourne. That kind of room is built from the shell in. Massive in-wall monitors, a trapezoid shape with splayed walls so the sides don't fire sound straight back and forth. Rock walls, huge bass traps placed where the room design points the bottom end to. Heavy treatment everywhere. A room like that costs tens of thousands of dollars. And your lounge is not a Westlake room. It's a plasterboard box. Physics is physics. Top-end wavelengths are really short, so direct sound tends to win, speaker to ears. The room still matters, but nowhere near as much as bottom end, where the wavelengths can be several meters long, so the room gets involved whether you like it or not. There will be a pressure pattern for your room, and mapping it is key to solving these kinds of issues. What is happening? The walls throw back those long wavelengths, so now you've got a direct wave and a reflected wave crossing in the same space and time. Where they stack, you get a peak, a raise in level. Where they phase cancel, you get a null. You can picture this in a rectangular swimming pool where the waves hit the wall, come back, and in some spots pile up, while in other spots they wipe each other out. That is your room doing the same thing. And in a living room where you can't always put the speakers where they need to go and you can't always have the optimum seating position, what do? When the other humans in your life have made it perfectly clear those things are not going over there. You stop thinking about upgrades and you start thinking about simple changes to position, small things that you can get away with. Start with speaker placement. Move them 10, 15 centimetres in, out from the walls. Take a measurement where your seating position is. With your sub, move it. Try it on a different wall, opposing sides, if it's not in the way. And then your chair, your seating position. Shift it around a little bit. Sit there, listen, measure. Centimetres can make a huge change in a small room. This is the first thing that actually makes some difference. There is one gear option that you may consider, and that is at this point, if you only have one sub and it's loading the room badly, two smaller subs can sometimes work better than one giant box. Not because it's adding more power, but because you may be spreading the problem, not just making it louder. And after that, look at treatment. Not just foam stuck on the walls, actual treatment where the room is misbehaving. A heavier rug, heavier furnishings, properly placed panels and diffusers, bass trapping if you can hide it and live with it. And I'd probably download an SPL meter onto your phone and move around and try to plot the pressure map and geometry. And yes, the obvious thing, in a shared room, this becomes negotiation, every step of it. Pretty matters, but physics matters too. Placement and treatment work together. One without the other is a compromise. And only after that do you reach for EQ and room correction. This is the polish pass, not the rescue mission. It can pull things into line once you've done the work. It can't replace the work, but it can help. The room is in the acoustic circuit whether you plan for it or not. Chasing hardware first is like trying to fix a bad mix with a new mixer. It's the wrong sequence. You go in order: placement, seat, treatment, then correction. It's a long process and it's worth doing. Do that and you are solving the problem at the cause instead of spending money on a symptom. And if you've done the physical work and want to see what digital correction can do after that, watch my ArcX video here. I break down exactly how the process worked in my system. Do the thing, do all the things. This is the Audio Lab. I'm Peter Thomson. See you in the next video.